Welcome to Healing the Tigress, a podcast of conversations and stories on Asian American Pacific Islander maternal mental health. We are your hosts. I'm Peggy, a perinatal mental health therapist.
And I'm Jasmine, a clinical pharmacist who is perinatal mental health certified. Both of us are Taiwanese American mothers who have lived experiences of postpartum depression and anxiety. It felt like we didn't see anyone who looked like us also struggling with their mental health in new motherhood. But we would go on to learn that it wasn't just us and that there was so much more to perinatal mental health.
So we created this podcast because we know that sharing these stories can begin to break the stigma of mental health in our community, and we want to help heal the inner tigress in all AAPI parents. Let's get started.
Welcome back, everyone. We have always wanted to make sure to cover stories and topics across the spectrum, including untraditional paths to parenthood and all the mental health aspects along the way. Today's episode dives into another angle. What happens if you think you might want to be a mom one day, but you haven't found the right partner, and you don't want to just settle for any partner to fulfill that dream? Our guest today will talk about her journey on accepting that the default path presented to her might not be the one that is right for her, and her experience with egg freezing.
Jen is a Taiwanese American woman and eldest daughter of immigrant parents with degrees in psychology, speech-language pathology, and human-centered design engineering. She enjoys sharing her experiences around navigating the complexities of her bicultural identity and embracing her non-linear path on her Instagram account @AsiansInBloom. Jen has also been planning local events for the AAPI community that focus on self-discovery, creative exploration, and belonging. Welcome to the podcast, Jen.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, would you kick us off, Jen, by telling our guests a little bit about, I think you've mentioned your cultural background, but we always let our guests, say a little bit more if they want to.
Yeah. So like Peggy mentioned, I am Taiwanese American. I grew up in the Bay Area and I do visit Taiwan like whenever I can. I feel really connected to that side of myself. And yeah, I'm still like learning more about it. So I'm really proud to be Taiwanese American.
I think this season, somehow organically, we've gotten a lot of Taiwanese American guests, not intentionally, but that's kind of happened. And we love it because we share that too. All right. So diving in, Jen, what did you envision your life to look like when you were growing up? And how or why did that change over time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I envision my life basically what other people or society told me, like basically by 30, I should have everything figured out, right? Like I should have my dream career with kids and I'm in a really nice home. But yeah, I didn't reach those milestones that, I thought I was supposed to reach. And I think, it's not just media, but I think also culture and like parents, like that's what they told me. But it started to change when, well, first, yes, I didn't meet it. So then I had to think about, is that what I really wanted for myself? Or is it what someone else wanted for me? And so I think I started this journey of really looking inwards to figure out what that might actually look for me. I thought I wanted, for example, like 2 kids with my partner. And now I'm like, oh, maybe one is okay. Or even if I don't have a kid, I can still have a fulfilling life. So yeah, I think my idea of what dream life would look like has just changed a lot because it just hasn't gone the way I thought it was going to go. And I realized like, yeah, maybe things will go out of order or I'll be exploring like different ways to live my life. Yeah, and I think that's just a topic that I'm really passionate about because I've noticed that other people have a lot of pressure as well to meet that. And once they don't, I kind of feel like something's wrong with them. And I really want to share my story of being able to empower myself to like own my story and my path.
Yeah, and I imagine especially like you mentioned the pressures, there's a lot of cultural expectation. And I think even if you're not API, this idea, but I think more so for immigrant families or children of immigrants, that you follow that quote unquote linear path of getting married, having kids, all that kind of stuff. And it's interesting because I think as Asian Americans have this similar experience of actually being told we can't date in high school or in school and focus on school, get into college. But then once we're done with schooling, we should get married right away and have kids. When are you going to give us first? It's when are you going to get married? Okay, when are you going to have kids? There's all this timeline that has been created for us. How did your parents approach the topic of marriage and parenthood? And how did you overcome these pressures from them as you did some of your own inner work?
Yeah, I'd say my parents are pretty traditional in terms of how they view like marriage, but I mean, they are like more open in other ways, but I think being able to get married by a certain age, I think for them meant that I would then be stable and happy. And so I understand where they're coming from. That's what they were taught growing up. And so I feel like that was the only model I had growing up just to kind of follow that path. And in terms of like the dating world too, they definitely have an outdated version. Like they try to give me advice, and I'm like, I don't think you understand. You like, you haven't. Yeah, it's funny. They're just like, isn't it really easy? Like, just like two people that are pretty cool just get together and then, and then, just, yeah, just try it out. And if you like each other enough, just get married. Yeah, I was like, wow, I didn't realize, yeah, just how out of touch they were. It's with good intentions. They want the best for me. And when you say like overcome the pressure, yeah, I still don't even know if overcome is the right word. Like it's maybe managing the pressure because I will say that the pressure, I mean, it still can be hurtful even if, I'm able to still like go my own path, despite, you know, their expectations. But what has happened is like I think one time I just had to like walk out of the room because like both sides were just getting so worked up. Like they were, I understand like coming from this place of fear and like that scarcity mindset a lot of immigrant parents have of like they're worried that something is missing, and I know they're just worried for my well-being. And it didn't even matter that I was living a happy life or I felt fulfilled. So I think there was just a lot of tension there. And yeah, I just realized like it's not productive to keep talking. So I had to like walk out of the room and just go somewhere else. And other times I've had to like redirect the conversation, just keep that topic to a minimum. So I've been able to manage the pressure that way. But yeah, again, I still think that it does still hurt when you still don't want your parents to have to feel like they worry about you when you're like, wait, I told you you don't need to worry about me. So I think they're pretty complex dealing with that journey, but it's been helpful just being able to like listen to my own voice and like let that anchor myself because I know what I'm going through. Like I don't share everything that happens in my dating life with them. So like they don't know what I've been through. So I understand like they're just coming from a place where they're like, oh, Jen doesn't seem like she's like dating, right? Or, they don't know. And it's just based on, yeah, that kind of limiting belief that, yeah, I'm not caught up to whatever everyone else is doing, right? There's a lot of comparison as well, like, oh, they got married already and they already got a kid or two, which I think, again, is very common in Asian household to compare and then feel really
Yeah.
scared that my own children are not where they are.
Do you think there's a tiger mom thing happening in terms of over your relationship? Like they're trying to get into that and control that aspect of your life?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think for them, they don't think they are. I mean, I don't see them often because we don't live in the same city and we chat occasionally, so they feel like, oh, my influence isn't like too much, but every time we talk, it does feel like they still want to make sure they're controlling what feels comfortable for them, and
Hmm.
I think they don't realize it. So I think definitely they're from their own, maybe they don't feel secure. So, they how they're feeling and how I might be. So I think it is, again, coming from that place of scarcity mindset and
Yeah.
what they saw their parents go through as well. Like, I'm sure that's what their parents taught them. So it just keeps kind of repeating.
Part of me also wonders, like, if it's also because you're a woman and, like, would that look different, say, if you were male and there wouldn't be as much of a pressure on you to have to find a partner, get married, have kids, have a house, have the American dream kind of thing that they thought they were coming to this country for, right? I don't know if you feel any difference because of your gender.
We'll be right back after this short message.
Hey, Healing the Tigress listeners. This is Dr. Jenny Kim from episode 45. You may remember my story about losing my baby Joey before he was 7 months old and how I parented through that grief. When someone we love dies, they are still part of our lives. So last year, I wrote and created a customizable picture book called Look to the Sky, reminding loved ones that their love lives on through everyday signs. Now we are trying to make this book more accessible to the community, even if it is not a personalized one. So from now until May 23rd, I've launched a Kickstarter campaign to bring this community edition book to more grieving families, hospitals, and the people who support them. We reached our initial goal, but I need your help to get to the stretch goal so that we can bring this book to even more grieving families who may need the support. Find the Kickstarter on grieversandfriends.com and help me continue this mission of helping grieving families navigate their loss. This is a way Joey still continues to live on and touch lives, and I would appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, that's a great point because I do have a brother and I have noticed they treat us differently. Well, my brother is married, so it's a little different, but my brother had told me my parents will ask him how I'm doing with my dating situation or, try to go behind my back. But I can tell they're worried because they're like, oh, if Jen doesn't have a partner, like she won't be able to handle like life or like, even though I've been on my own since, yeah, basically when I went off for college, I haven't, been back home. So yeah, I definitely think gender plays a big role. They don't think I can yeah, do it myself. And yeah, they're always worried. And I know because of what my brother tells me.
It sounds like you have a good brother, though. He's at least like letting you in on, their little sneaky behind the scenes things.
And this is such an Asian parent thing of like going around by going through a sibling, like not asking
Yes.
you directly, but going
Hmm.
around and trying to get the inside scoop or trying to tell your brother stuff
Yeah,
so that he will tell you stuff.
exactly. Yeah, I know it's been really interesting because sometimes my parents are like, oh, yeah, we're fine. Like, so I thought, like, they're not worried about me. But then my brother tells me, oh, they're still really worried about me. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
They're
So,
putting the onus on him to,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, he's kind of stuck in the middle. But I feel like that has happened to me too, where they've been worried about my brother and then they asked me to look out for him. So yeah, it goes both ways. But the gender, like you're saying though, in terms of the pressure to find a partner and to have kids, I think for some reason, yeah. Well, I guess because, they do come from a world where women are seen as someone that needs a provider. And so I guess it's
Hmm.
from, again, the traditional mindset.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is that if they are really also concerned about having like you having kids and giving them grandkids and things like that. So maybe they're worried like, yeah, there is always that biological clock that unfortunately we have to bear that burden. And you mentioned to us that you decided to do egg freezing when you finally felt ready for it. Like maybe your parents brought it up, but you also wanted it to be on your timeline. So, how long did it take for you to feel ready? And what finally caused you to take that plunge?
Yes. So for egg freezing, I mean, I think I first started thinking about it when my mom, brought it up. I think probably maybe when I turned 30, I think that's when she started saying, "Oh, maybe you should look into that since you don't have a partner." And so she started kind of casually bringing up, like, have you thought about egg freezing? Like every time I saw her, and I said, I know about it, but that's just not something I want to do. There's definitely that pressure, but I don't think it was until maybe when I was in my mid 30s when I started to seriously consider it for a couple of reasons. Well, one, because I hadn't found the right partner yet, but I did, still want to have children at some point. But I also didn't want that pressure, like you mentioned, the biological clock. And I know that egg freezing would give me a little bit more time and I also had, my own goals I was still focusing on as well. I think that's a reason a lot of people also do egg freezing to maybe focus more on career or their health. And then I think another part of it is I heard that when you reach like 35, the fertility does start to decline. So it's a good time to, look into egg freezing. So yeah, that's when I booked a consultation just to, I think you can just get some tests, right? It's like, oh, I don't even have to decide if I want to do egg freezing. So I was like, oh, okay, at least let me even see if I'm a good candidate for egg freezing. Another reason why I also considered it is because my company offered fertility benefits which I mean, I feel like a big barrier is the financial aspect of it. It's really expensive, like thousands of dollars, but my insurance did cover most of it. So I was like, ooh, I should take advantage of this. But even after they told me I was a good candidate, for some reason, I still couldn't really make up my mind. And I, went to get like a second opinion from my primary doctor. And even after that, I was still not sure. I think it is pretty scary, like intimidating process, right, to go through. Like, you have to inject yourself. Like, I don't like needles. And it also just seems like a very emotionally exhausting type of experience. And I didn't have any family around where I live. So, I would really be doing it on my own. And again, I didn't have a partner at the time either. So yeah, just really like I felt like, oh, I, just have to really take that leap and be brave if I wanted to do this. And I think I was like gathering the courage to even feel comfortable, even though I knew like everything was fine. Like I had, the finances covered and I know that like my manager would be supportive. Like, so all of that, was in place. But it was really then just up to me, right, to feel like comfortable going on this path. But yeah, I think it took a couple of months actually for me to feel ready after that. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it because I knew that it would be just really helpful for me to just feel more at ease and I don't know, not so stressed, right? Having to worry about this other part of my life when I had so many other goals and dreams I wanted to pursue. So that's when I went for it.
Yeah, there's an emotional processing, I feel like. So much of it is physical, right? Like injecting and the egg extraction, all this kind of stuff, and then the financial. But I feel like there's something that happens mentally for you when you say yes to it, because it's also saying yes to the potential that you will need it later versus according to this linear timeline. It's almost like the choice to freeze your eggs is saying, yes, I can see that my future might not go in the way that I think it will, and that future me might need these. And that might be kind of scary to be like, okay, I'm choosing this choice because it could mean that I might need it when I didn't think I would need it.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's almost like I really had to accept that I'm not going to find a partner at the time I thought I was supposed to. And that's a really good point. And I think it was also a process to like really embrace that, which I do now. But yeah, at the time, it really took a lot of strength to like feel okay with that.
I also feel like it's in a way also like a way of loving yourself because like saying like, oh, past Jen really thought about future Jen and took care of her to give her another plan B, plan C, other options just in case, right? Like you really were trying to take care of you down the road. So it's also a form of self-care, self-love.
Yeah, that really resonates with me because I did feel really empowered after that as a woman. And even though, I'm not a parent, I felt like I appreciated my body more after that process too, right? Because I felt like I had to get more connected with it and just like, wow, like I can whole life. And so it's like a way to experience it without being a parent, I guess. But yeah, I did feel like, wow, I have like control of my life. I can also have more authority over that. Yeah, it was experience that I'm really glad I went through.
Well, why don't you walk us through what the process of the egg freezing was like and why you decided to choose 2 cycles?
So first I had to do the initial tests where there were like blood tests and ultrasound just to see if I was a good candidate. But the actual process itself was like actually like 2 weeks or so. So it was actually not a big chunk of like my schedule. I think it was really the part where having to make sure you do all the injections on time. And then in between, I did have to go to appointments to like just do more blood tests and ultrasounds to just to make sure like the injections or like the medication was working as it was supposed to make sure those eggs would go into full maturity. Yeah, I actually felt it was kind of like I don't know, like project management because there was a lot I actually had to like juggle because there was scheduling with the clinic, then scheduling with my work to take time off. And then like the medication was from like a special pharmacy. So I had to like also deal with them and then my fertility insurance as well. So there's actually a lot to juggle. So you have to kind of be mentally prepared for that as you juggle, everything else in your life. Yeah. And then the actual injections, I think that was what I was most nervous about because I mean, usually you don't have to do that. And I, again, didn't really have anyone to help me. So either I do it on my own, or I think you could have a nurse come over to your home for the first time if you don't feel comfortable. Well, actually, the housemates I was living with at the time, one of them was actually like, "Oh, I can help you do it if you want."
Oh,
So I was
Oh,
actually like, maybe, maybe not. Actually, I think I'll feel more comfortable doing it myself. But yeah, it was really nice that I did have a lot of like friends supporting me. My family was kind of supporting me from a distance, so that kind of got me through it. And again, just telling myself that this is for the future me, and I think that's what helped me like kind of be okay, let me do it. And I was like, wait, actually, it's actually not that bad, at least for me. I know it's gonna vary by experience, but I was like, oh, it's actually, it doesn't hurt that much. Like maybe one of the medications would sting a little bit, but after a while, I got used to it. And I think even on the day of the actual procedure, it went by pretty quick. They put you under anesthesia and you can even go back to work the next day. So yeah, and it's, I guess it's the technologically advanced and they don't have to cut anything open. So, you're not really having to get stitched up. And there was like, some bloating and cramping afterwards, but honestly, my cramps during my period are worse. So I was like, oh, this is nothing. So yeah, I was kind of surprised by that, but I think some people do experience maybe different side effects after. And why I decided to do a second cycle of egg freezing was actually because the first cycle I didn't get like the expected amount of eggs. And apparently, what happened is one of the hormones they tested, it's called AMH, and it kind of predicts like how many eggs you might have. I guess it changed, remember how I said it took me a couple of months to decide if I want to do it? Apparently, it changed a little bit. And so I think the amount of like medication that I'm injecting myself should have been adjusted. So I guess the nurse yeah, was like, oh, they didn't realize like it would change so much. But yeah, for some reason, it changed enough that it should have been adjusted. So that's why I did a second cycle to make sure that I had the right amount. And it was successful the second time, so and it worked out. But yeah, I would just recommend like making sure if you wait a long time to decide if you want to do egg freezing to just get retested if your nurse doesn't do that. You just make sure to advocate for that. I mean, yeah, I ended up doing second cycle, but it was okay because my insurance actually covered 2 cycles. So yeah,
luckily enough.
Mhm.
Wow,
yeah,
the female body is such a mystery and
yeah.
kind of unfair sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think that sounds like a very helpful tip for people then if to make sure that like right before you do it or use your medications that your labs are done like near that time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if you don't have the benefit of
Right.
your company sponsoring it. It can be pricey.
Yeah, otherwise, yeah. Yeah, I think if it wasn't for that, I don't know, but yeah, we'd have to pay out of pocket. So, but yeah, for me, I still feel like the emotional part was actually more draining on me than the physical part of it. Like, having to kind of go through this experience by myself when I didn't really know anyone that was going through it. Like my friends either already had kids or maybe my friends didn't want kids. So I didn't really have anyone to talk to that, understood it personally. And the only other way I could really at least feel like I was connected is I would just like look online for podcasts that were talking about egg freezing. And I was, specifically looking for like Asian American women too, just because, yeah, I just feel like that would be more representative. And yeah, and I think I was listening to the Asian Boss Girl podcast, Janet. Yeah, I think she did like an episode on it. And that was like I think actually helped me feel more confident going through the process and encouraged to do it. So that's why I also want to share my story because when I was doing it, I wish there were more stories that I could listen to.
Yeah, that representation part is I feel so big because when you don't see someone looking like you kind of feel like, well, am I the only one in my herd kind of like behind or like the oddball out or like why is no one else doing this? Right? What does that say about me? But in reality, it could just be that people go through it, but they don't really share. And so everyone's just kind of siloed and living in their own worlds. But it does help to have that community and to speak it out and share about it, which I feel like so many of our guests this season have sort of been in that position where it's like speaking it out loud kind of frees it and makes you feel less alone, which is so important, so huge. And even the motherhood realm and everything, it's a lot of it is about feeling less alone in what you're doing. So much of mental health is tied to that. Yeah, I really appreciate you being open about sharing the experience and not having family nearby and not having a partner to do this with, or that's also already like feeling very isolating already in that story itself. So hopefully this way you'll find people that connect and resonate with your story and feel less alone too.
And also, when you think of your parents comparing you to people, now we have more people to compare to that are in similar boats. It's like, well, look, I'm
A
not
good
the only
comparison.
one. It's a good comparison. I am actually among many.
Yeah, recently I also heard of like, do you know Amanda Knock Nguyen,
Yes,
the
yes.
first female or Asian Asian American woman to go to space? Yeah, she talked about also like egg freezing herself too. Like she did that process for herself because like she has other things she wants to continue doing and dreams and stuff, and maybe she hasn't found the right partner, and so similarly, she talked about also that journey for herself. So yeah, I think it's really important to see those and hear those stories.
Yeah, I totally agree. And once I started opening up about it, actually, people in my friend circle would come to me asking for advice because they're like, wait, actually, I was considering it. So, like you were saying, like maybe
Mm,
it's just hard to talk about. But
yeah,
once I started just being really transparent about it and like what I was going through, yeah, other ladies started opening up to me and asking me for advice. So, yeah,
yeah. Because, like you said, there's so many parts to manage, right? There is like the insurance side, there is the medication side, there is the procedure, it's scheduling, it's side effects. What side effects did you get? People are scared. How did it feel to inject, right? What would have made it easier, right? Like you said, can you go to work the next day? Like, I didn't know. Like, you could just go the next day. Like, maybe some people can. And so, hearing about that, I think is very humanizing and helpful. Why also do you feel that it's important not to rush the process of finding a partner? Like, your parents are like, oh, as long as you get along, it's fine. Just, you can get married, whatever. Especially in that context of raising mentally healthy future children together.
yeah, I think this is such an important topic, especially since, again, we feel the pressure of having to get married and have kids. But I think growing up and going through my own experience of like my parents, I don't think they had a healthy model from their parents. And so I think that really impacted me because my parents, just didn't really know how to have a healthy relationship with each other. And so I've noticed, how that's really carried through adulthood for me and through my dating experiences. And for me, if I were to have a children, I would want to provide a healthy model for them as well. So if I rush, and maybe not choose the right partner, then that could deeply impact my future children. So I think about that. And also affects my mental health too, right? If I'm not with the right partner. And I don't know if people think about that before getting married, like the people who might rush. And for example, I choose the wrong partner, and then my future children have to like see that growing up. I just think I would owe it to the future generations to provide a healthy model, so that they can also find, the right relationship when they grow up as well. So I just see like there's a lot of impact that keeps accumulating, like, the intergenerational trauma. And, now that we're in a time where there's like more resources and mental health is like less stigmatized, it's also my responsibility to make sure that I am like doing that inner work and taking my time to choose the right partner. And I think also just not getting stuck in that comparison trap, right? Because like I'm on my own timeline and that's perfectly okay. I think all of that made me realize yeah, I'm just like glad that I didn't rush into something and potentially impact the well-being of future children.
I feel like this generation of women, or maybe even Asian American women, are just so much more intentional and thoughtful about all of these decisions, whether it's finding a partner, whether it's to be one and done, whether it's to pursue different treatment to deal with fertility. All of these things, we're not just out there being like, hey, gotta go to school, get married, make kids, bam, right? It's what does that all actually all entail? Like being able to even think about how is that going to impact my mental health? And how does that impact my future children's mental health? What does this mean for all of these things? Like, that is such a gift that, like, our parents' generation could not even begin to dabble in, let alone our grandparents' generation to even think like that, to just pump out 7 kids at a time, you know? And so I just wonder, like, what it is that this generation has that allows us to be able to think so intentionally and think so thoughtfully about, like, future decisions.
I feel like part of that is privilege, right? Part of that is the privilege that our parents have given us, and we're in this position that we can do that. That's the first thing I think of, at least.
Yeah, and also I think just with the changes in society, like women, we can earn our own money and be more financially independent. So there's a lot, and I agree that I think women of our generation are more intentional, but especially if you're children of, immigrant parents, since they're more traditional, it feels confusing, right? Because like I want to pave my own path, but I'm still getting the pressure to follow traditional route. And I think that's where it feels very conflicting at times. Like, am I being a bad daughter for not giving them grandchildren, right? Like, yeah, there's like shame that might still be there at times. And yeah, it's very, yeah, I feel like a complex journey that's not so clear cut. And I definitely have to, like, I don't know, like, what's the word? Like, I guess like navigate and jump between these two worlds sometimes, right? Like, I'm still learning. It's still a work in progress. Even though I'm feeling more empowered, but of course, at times, like I kind of mentioned before, I still feel that pressure at times too. But yeah, I've learned I can hold both and just continue to build my best life, no matter what happens.
I do feel that it is really beautiful to hear you talking about considering your future children and their mental health already. And like I felt like motherhood, being on this side of it, cracked me open to realize I had a lot of generational, intergenerational things to break. Like I didn't even realize it was there until I was on this side. But you already have the foresight to know that before you even become a mother. And so I think there's something really beautiful about that too, that you are considering that and breaking those cycles before you even get onto this side, which means in a way you're kind of ahead. You can tell your parents that. Like some of us don't realize that until we're in the thick of it and you are preparing yourself already. So that's something kind of cool, I think.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah. I wonder too, when they have mentioned they just worry that you're able to take care of yourself, but all of these choices you have made, are you taking care of yourself? Whether it's the egg freezing, whether it's saying, I'm not just going to marry the next guy that comes my way. These are choices you're making to take care of not just who you are today, but like we said, like you're taking care of your future self, you're taking care of your future children, you're taking care of generations after you, right? And that is not exactly what they thought taking care of yourself looks like. And I think that again is the privilege we get to be children of immigrants and on this side of it, and holding that biculturalism of I get to plan ahead better than my ancestors did.
Exactly.
On that note, how do you, in the space of taking care of yourself, how do you maintain your mental health and find fulfillment in your life right now?
Yeah, I think I've been able to do that in many ways. Like, well, first of all, yeah, I think I'm also taking advantage of the fact that I have all this flexibility and freedom. So I'm like, I'm gonna make the most of that. So I'm really intentional about building like the right community for myself. So that's something that I've been doing, like being active in my own community, planning events, strengthening both like the relationships I already have, but also expanding my circle as well. And I think that's kept me really busy and exploring like new hobbies and traveling. And I think for mental health, I mean, I see a therapist, so I have that as support. In addition to, I think community actually feels like has been a big part of helping with my mental health, actually. I think that's really key. Like you all mentioned, like not feeling alone, being part of something. And I've noticed, I've really been drawn to finding people in the AAPI community because we have some shared experiences, and I think that's yeah been a really big part of my healing journey. And yeah, and I think just like being grateful for where I am right now has also helped that gratitude. Like I'm just like enjoying my life and able to work on my passion projects. And I think I just keep myself really busy. So I find a lot of fulfillment in being able to do the things I that really light me up. And I think, it also took time for me to even figure that out, right? Like I mentioned, like having to do the inner work to even get here, like to figure out like who are the type of people I want to surround myself with and what are the topics that I'm so passionate about that I want to, spend time on. And maybe naturally I'll find a partner someday and maybe I won't, but either way, like at least I know that I'm really building this life that's meaningful to me. And yeah, and just being able to trust my timing. Like, so far I feel like, oh, I'm really glad how things are because it led me to where I am now. And I'm just so happy. Yeah, and I think yeah, having that anchor has really helped that this is my unique path and I really trust myself that it's unfolding the way that it should be.
I love hearing that. It can be so hard, I think, to be confident in what you're doing when it looks so different from what other people and your peers are doing. And just saying, like, I'm not going to play that comparison game because their life is theirs and my life is mine. And that's okay. We can all do those things that make us happy. And so thank you for sharing your journey. And we like to end all of our episodes with asking our guests to just sort of reflect back and in the spirit of healing your inner tigress, thinking about like present day you going back to a past version of yourself when it was like a really hard time for you. What would that present day you tell the past version of yourself?
I think I would tell my younger self that you are enough just as you are. Like you don't need to prove anything. Like and even if you mess up, that doesn't make you any less of you know, a person and kind of what I mentioned before, just that you are right on time. You know, like you're not behind. Um, and I think I felt like, like a late bloomer all my life, actually. Like I always felt like I was behind, but yeah, just letting that younger version of me know that yeah, just um, I'm doing okay. Like just keep going. And I think trusting myself, like finding my voice as well, because there's going to be a lot of external noise, like a lot. But I think just make sure to always trust yourself because you know yourself best. So I think that's what I would tell her.
I think that thing you mentioned about being that late bloomer connects a little bit to like your Instagram handle, right? Actually, maybe why don't you tell people where they can find more of you and then tell us a little bit more about like, the blooms that are late.
Oh, yes. No, actually, I think basically my life experience of being a late bloomer. I mean, I'm gonna put quotes late bloomer because I don't think there's such thing as a late bloomer, but yeah, I think that's what inspired me to make this Instagram called Asians in Bloom. And yeah, I wanted people to know that, we all bloom in our own time, right? It's like we have our own seasons and that's okay. But I think also, as I mentioned, like just navigating the complexities of being Asian American and how do I like embrace myself fully and like love all parts of me, right? So being able to embrace that part of our identity, but also helping people just find, I guess, the creative gifts within them. Because I think that's also, I kind of mentioned that, but yeah, I think that's been a big part of my healing journey because it's helps you express who you are authentically and I think also Agents of Bloom is showing that, it's an ongoing journey, right? There's not like an arrival. Like, it's about like that journey. And we're always growing and learning. And since I kind of went through this process of feeling like I always had to, just get there. And I always felt like I was never enough. I wanted to remind people that they're always enough. And so that's why, yeah, I started to just share my own story on there. And what I'm doing now is I'm starting to share more of other people's stories so that we can get more of the diverse voices in our community. And I'm also like planning events too. So I might just kind of share like what kind of community events I'm doing for this mission as well. So that's what this Instagram's for. And yeah, just one of my passion projects that I've been working on and finding a lot of fulfillment in.
So that's at Asians in Bloom. Which, did you know that there are flowers that only bloom at night because if they were to bloom in the day, they would actually lose their resources because of how hot it is? And so there's actually reasons why that we might be quote unquote late bloomers or not bloom according to other flowers because it's actually what's better for that flower.
There is night blooming jasmine, I will say.
Ooh. I didn't know.
So maybe instead of calling it a late bloomer, we should call them night bloomers.
Ooh, yeah.
Just different timing. And
Yeah, we're just...
Yeah, that's really pretty. Well, thank you so much again today, Jen, for being on our show. And we will link where people can find you in the show notes. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
We want to thank you deeply for tuning into this episode of Healing the Tigress. The more we share these stories, the more we can help our AAPI mothers and partners. If you enjoyed this episode and our mission, you can help us out in the following ways. Follow our show wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a rating and or a review, and share our podcast with a friend.
We also encourage you to follow us on Instagram at Healing the Tigress, where we hope to build a community of healing tigresses and give you updates on what's coming. And if you want more bonus episodes, please check out our show notes for how to subscribe to our exclusive content. Or you can also head over to our Buzzsprout page at healingthetigress.buzzsprout.com. We are not for profit. We are here to help our community, but any support you give us is so deeply appreciated. Above all, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being here.
Healing the Tigress is produced and edited by Peggy and Jasmine.
Music for this show is remixed by Dr. Tony Huynh of Tony Mixes.
Our intro music is a cover of You and Me by Z Avi, played by our co-host Peggy.
Our outro music is a cover of Green Island Serenade, played by Jasmine's sister.
Cover art design is by Dr. Angela Chung.